It was a quiet evening when Amir walked out of his house to put the trash bin near the gate. The sun had just gone down, and the streetlights were coming on one by one. The small neighborhood was peaceful, with only the sound of crickets in the background. Amir lived alone in his modest house at the end of the street. He liked peace and privacy, and his home was his safe space. But that night, something strange caught his attention. When Amir bent down to adjust the bin, he noticed a small red light blinking near his driveway. At first, he thought it was a reflection from a car or maybe a toy, but the light was fixed and steady, not moving at all. He walked closer, curious. The light was coming from a small black device hidden near a flower pot beside his driveway wall. He squatted down to look at it carefully. It looked like a camera, small but modern. It was attached with a small wire that disappeared under the fence. Amir felt uneasy. He had never installed a camera there, and no one else should have access to his property. He picked it up and checked it. It was indeed a camera. A small sticker on the side read Outdoor Cam X5. It looked expensive and new. Amir turned around to see if anyone was watching him, but the street was empty. He felt something strange in his chest, a mix of confusion and anger. Amir decided to take the camera inside. He placed it on his kitchen table and stared at it. Who could have put it there? He thought about calling someone, but he wasn't sure who to trust. His next-door neighbor, Karen, had always been a bit difficult. She often complained about small things like the noise of his lawnmower or his dog barking. But she never seemed dangerous, just annoying. Still, Amir couldn't shake off the feeling that she might have something to do with it. Her house was right beside his driveway. Maybe the camera belonged to her. But why would she place it facing his driveway? He decided to sleep on it and think more in the morning. But as he lay in bed, he kept thinking about that red light in the quiet street. What if someone was watching him for days without him knowing? The thought made him restless. The next morning, Amir woke up early. He went outside and checked the spot again. The flower pot had some disturbed soil, and the wire that had been running under the fence was still visible. It seemed to lead straight toward Karen's side. His suspicion grew stronger. He decided to test something. He followed the wire carefully along the ground, making sure not to break it. The wire ran under the wooden fence separating his driveway from Karen's garden. Through the small gaps between the fence boards, he could see the wire continuing all the way toward Karen's garage. Amir felt his heart beat faster. He had to be sure before accusing anyone, so he took pictures with his phone as proof. After that, he went back inside and thought about what to do next. Around noon, Karen came out of her house. She was watering her plants near the driveway. Amir greeted her politely. "Morning, Karen," he said. She looked at him with a cold smile. "Morning, Amir, how are things?" He hesitated. "Good, just cleaning up a bit. By the way, did you install any security cameras recently?" Karen stopped for a moment and looked surprised, then laughed. "No, why would I do that? I already have enough cameras on my property." Amir nodded slowly. "I found one near my driveway. It looked like it was facing my gate." Her face changed slightly, but she quickly smiled again. Maybe some kids were playing around. You know how they are. Amir could tell she was hiding something. Her voice was slightly shaky and she avoided eye contact. After she went back inside, Amir made up his mind. He called the local sheriff's office and explained the situation. The officer on the phone told him to wait at home and not to move the camera again. They said they would send someone to check. A few hours later, a sheriff's car pulled up near his house. A tall man in uniform stepped out. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Sheriff Daniel. You reported a hidden camera?" "Yes, sir," Amir replied and showed him the camera on the table. He also showed the photos he had taken of the wire and the fence. The sheriff inspected everything carefully. "Good work taking photos. It looks like someone placed this intentionally." "You said the wire goes under the fence?" "Yes, it leads toward my neighbor's garage," Amir said. The sheriff nodded. "All right, let's have a look." They went outside together. The sheriff crouched near the fence and examined the wire. He followed it with his eyes through the small gap in the boards. Then he stood up and knocked on Karen's door. Karen opened the door with a forced smile. "Good afternoon, officer." "What's going on?" The sheriff spoke politely but firmly. "Ma'am, we're investigating a report of a hidden camera found on your neighbor's property. The wire appears to lead into your garage. May we take a look?" Karen's smile faded. "That's ridiculous. Why would I have a camera on his driveway? This is a misunderstanding." The sheriff stayed calm. If that's true, then there's nothing to worry about. But I'll need to confirm. Karen hesitated for a moment, then sighed and opened her garage door. The inside was neat, but filled with electronic devices and wires. Amir stood behind the sheriff, watching quietly. The sheriff's eyes followed the wire from under the fence. It ran across the floor and connected to a small black box mounted near the wall. The sheriff walked over and examined it. This is a receiver. It's connected to that camera. Karen's face turned pale. I can explain. I was just checking for safety. We've had people parking here at night, and I wanted to keep an eye on things. The sheriff looked at her seriously. You don't have the right to put a camera facing someone else's property without permission. That's invasion of privacy. Amir stayed silent but felt relief that his suspicion was true. Karen's nervous behavior now made sense. She had been secretly watching his driveway. The sheriff disconnected the device and collected both the camera and the receiver as evidence. He told Karen that she would need to visit the station to explain everything. She didn't argue, only looked down in embarrassment. As the sheriff packed the items, he turned to Amir. You did the right thing reporting it. We'll handle the rest. Amir nodded. Thank you, officer. I just wanted to know the truth. When the sheriff left with Karen following behind, Amir stood in his driveway, looking at the now empty spot where the camera had been. The red blinking light was gone, but he could still feel the uneasiness of being watched. That night he sat near the window and looked toward Karen's house. It was dark and silent. He wondered how long she had been spying on him and why. Something told him there was more to this than just curiosity. He had a feeling that this was not over yet. The next morning, Amir woke up early, his mind still full of what had happened the previous day. He kept thinking about the camera and the look on Karen's face when the sheriff found the receiver in her garage. He had expected her to deny it, but her reaction had been something else. She had looked scared, not just embarrassed. That fear made Amir wonder if something bigger was going on. He went outside to water his plants. The air was fresh after a light night rain, and the smell of wet soil filled the air. The street was calm, as usual. A few houses down, an old man was walking his dog. Amir waved at him, trying to appear normal, but inside he was uneasy. He couldn't stop feeling that someone else might still be watching. He looked toward Karen's house. The garage door was closed and her car was gone. Maybe she was at the sheriff's station, as they had told her to come for questioning. Amir sighed and went back inside. He made tea and tried to read the newspaper, but every sound outside made him turn his head toward the window. A little later, Sheriff Daniel called him. Good morning, Amir. I wanted to let you know that we have taken the devices for analysis. The camera and the receiver were connected through a live feed. That means someone was actively watching. Amir's heart sank. Watching in real time? Yes, said the sheriff. We are trying to see where the video was being stored. There's a small chance it was saved somewhere else, maybe online. Do you think she was spying on me? Amir asked. We don't want to jump to conclusions, but yes, it looks that way for now, said Daniel. After ending the call, Amir sat quietly for a while. His mind went through every moment of the last few weeks. He remembered hearing noises outside late at night, like someone walking on the gravel. He had thought it was just stray animals, but now he wasn't so sure. He also remembered how Karen sometimes looked at him strangely when he washed his car or talked to delivery drivers. Maybe she had been watching everything. Around noon, a police car stopped in front of Karen's house. 2 officers stepped out and entered through the gate. Amir watched from his window. They stayed for about 20 minutes before leaving again. That meant something important was happening. In the evening, when Amir went to get his mail, he saw his other neighbor, an old lady named Mrs. Wilson, standing near her gate. She waved and said, I heard about what happened, Amir. Is it true Karen put a camera near your driveway? Amir nodded slowly. Yes, the sheriff found it connected to her garage. Mrs. Wilson shook her head. I always knew something was odd about her. She was always looking through her window, writing things down in a notebook. I thought she was just nosy, but maybe it was more than that. Amir frowned. Writing things down? Yes, said Mrs. Wilson. I saw her sitting by the window at night, looking outside and writing in that notebook. Maybe you should tell the sheriff about that. I will, Amir said, feeling more uneasy than before. That night, Amir received another call from Sheriff Daniel. "Amir, we checked the camera feed. It was linked to Karen's laptop. She was recording and saving videos from your driveway and the street in front of your house." Amir was shocked. "Why would she do that?" "That's what we're trying to find out," said the sheriff. "We found multiple video files. Some of them are from last month. It seems she has been watching for weeks. But here's something strange. She had also recorded her own garage and backyard." Amir was confused. "Her own garage? Why would she do that?" "That's what makes it odd," said Daniel. "It's almost like she was keeping an eye on herself too, or maybe someone else. We're not sure yet." After the call ended, Amir couldn't sleep. He sat by his window again, watching the quiet street. The moonlight reflected off the roofs of the houses and everything looked peaceful, but inside his chest was a storm of thoughts. If Karen had been watching not just him, but also her own property, maybe she was afraid of something. But what? The next day, the sheriff returned to Amir's house to ask more questions. He was carrying a small notebook and a brown envelope. "We found this during the search," he said. "It's a list of times and notes. Most of it matches your schedule." Amir looked at the paper. It had entries like Amir leaves at 8 or Amir returns at 5:20, delivery at 2:15. Each note had a date and sometimes a comment. One line said, "Suspicious man near gate." Amir looked up. "She was tracking my movements." The sheriff nodded. "It looks that way. But here's the interesting part. The notebook also mentions another name." He flipped a page and pointed. "See here? It says, 'Watch for Richard's car. Don't let him near Amir's gate.'" Amir frowned. "Who is Richard?" The sheriff sighed. "We're still looking into that. Maybe a friend or someone she knew. We're checking her phone records." Later in the afternoon, Karen came back home. She looked tired and avoided eye contact with Amir. She didn't wave or speak. Instead, she went straight inside and closed the door. Amir thought about talking to her but decided not to. He wanted to wait for the sheriff's update. 2 days passed quietly. Then one evening, Amir heard a car stop outside. When he looked out, he saw a black car parked near Karen's driveway. A man stepped out, looked around, and then went to Karen's door. He knocked twice, and she opened immediately. They talked for a few seconds before going inside together. Amir's heart started beating fast again. Could this be the Richard mentioned in the notebook? He decided to call Sheriff Daniel and tell him what he saw. The sheriff told him to stay inside and not to approach. He said an officer would come by to check. An hour later, a patrol car came down the street, but by then the black car was gone. The officer spoke to Karen briefly, then left. From his window, Amir could see Karen standing outside, looking nervous. She glanced at Amir's house before closing her door again. That night, Amir heard faint sounds coming from her garage, like something being moved or dragged. He tried to ignore it, but the sounds continued. He turned on his porch light, hoping it would make her stop. The noise stopped for a while, but started again later. In the morning, Amir noticed something new. The fence between their houses had a fresh scratch mark like something heavy had hit it. He also saw new footprints in the soil near the fence line. It looked like someone had crossed over during the night. He called the sheriff again and told him everything. The sheriff said they would check the area later that day. When they arrived, they inspected the fence and found more signs of movement. Daniel looked serious. "Someone was definitely here last night," he said. "Maybe trying to remove something or hide something." They checked Karen's garage again, but she wasn't home this time. Inside, they found boxes of old tools, wires, and electronic parts. One box had more cameras and small recorders. Another had printed photos, some of Amir's driveway, some of cars passing by, and even some of the sheriff's car from the previous visit. Daniel looked at the photos and said, "She's been documenting everything. This is not normal curiosity. It feels like she was preparing for something." Amir felt a chill down his spine. "Do you think she's working with someone?" "It's possible," said Daniel. "That man who visited her might be involved. We'll track him down." When Amir returned home that evening, he noticed Karen's car was still missing. Her house was dark and silent. For the first time in days, the street felt empty, almost too quiet. But Amir couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't finished. Something told him Karen had more secrets hidden behind that garage wall. The next morning, Amir woke up to the sound of a car engine outside. When he looked through the curtain, he saw the same black car parked in front of Karen's house again. The man from the other night was standing near the trunk, looking around as if checking for something. He wore a dark jacket and a cap that covered half of his face. After a few seconds, he opened Karen's gate and went straight to her garage. Amir watched closely, feeling his stomach tighten. The man didn't even knock this time. He entered the garage like he owned the place. A few minutes later, Karen came out from the front door. She looked upset, her hands waving as if she was arguing. They spoke for a while, but Amir couldn't hear their words. After a short argument, Karen looked around and then nodded, almost like she gave in to whatever he said. They both went back inside. Amir knew he should call Sheriff Daniel again, but he decided to wait a few minutes and see what the man did. The car's trunk was still open, and inside Amir could see a few strange things. There was a laptop, a black case with cables, and a few folders filled with papers. It looked like something related to the cameras. Amir took his phone and quietly recorded a short video from his window, capturing the man, the car, and the garage door. He didn't want to take any risks. After 5 minutes, the car's trunk closed and the man and Karen came out again. They spoke one last time, then he drove away. Amir finally decided to call the sheriff. "He's back," Amir said quickly. The man named Richard. He went into her garage again. "I recorded it." "Good work," Daniel replied. "We're sending a team right now. Stay inside, don't approach them." About 20 minutes later, 2 police cars arrived. Karen's car was still there, and the officers knocked on her door. After a short talk, they went inside with her. Amir stood near his window, trying not to be seen. After an hour, the officers came out with a few boxes and computers. Karen followed them, looking pale and tired. The sheriff himself arrived soon after. When he noticed Amir at the window, he waved for him to come outside. Amir stepped out and met him near the gate. "What did you find?" he asked. Daniel looked serious. "We found some recordings and documents. It seems Karen was working with that man, Richard. They were both running some kind of neighborhood watch, but in a private way without telling anyone. At least that's what she says." Amir frowned. "A neighborhood watch? That doesn't make sense. Why would they hide cameras?" Daniel nodded. "That's what I thought. But Karen insists they were collecting proof about a group of people who, according to her, were doing something suspicious around the street at night. She claims she didn't trust anyone, not even us." "So she watched me because of that?" Amir asked. "Yes," said Daniel. "She said she thought your driveway was being used by someone for illegal parking or exchange. But we haven't found any proof of that yet." Amir sighed. "That still doesn't explain why she had so many recordings and notes." Daniel looked toward Karen's house. "You're right. There's more. Some of the files show videos from other houses too. Not just yours. It looks like she and that man have been recording most of the street." Later that day, Karen was taken to the police station again for further questioning. The sheriff asked Amir if he could come too to answer a few questions. Amir agreed, wanting to know the truth. At the station, Karen sat quietly at the table. She looked exhausted. When the sheriff asked her about Richard, she spoke slowly. "He said he could help me," she explained. "He said someone was sneaking into people's yards at night. He showed me marks on fences, including Amir's. I didn't believe him at first, but one night I saw a shadow moving near Amir's gate. That's why I installed the camera. I wanted to catch the person." Daniel asked, "So why didn't you tell Amir or the police?" Karen looked down. "Because Richard said not to. He told me someone in the police might be involved. I didn't know who to trust." The room fell silent for a moment. Amir looked at her with confusion. He wasn't sure if she was telling the truth or just making excuses. The sheriff leaned forward. "Who is Richard exactly?" Karen hesitated. "He said he used to work for security companies. He knew about surveillance and technology. I thought he was helping, but now I think he had another reason." After the questioning, Daniel walked Amir outside. "We checked Richard's ID," he said quietly. "The name is real, but the rest of his information looks fake. The address he gave her doesn't exist. We're now trying to track his car." Amir nodded. "Do you think he's dangerous?" Maybe, said Daniel. We can't say yet, but I don't like how he disappears every time we get close. That night, Amir returned home feeling both sorry and cautious. Karen might have been tricked, or she might be hiding something more. Either way, the presence of that man made everything darker. He checked his house twice before locking up. Around midnight, Amir heard a noise outside again. It sounded like footsteps on the gravel. His heart jumped. He turned off the lights and quietly peeked through the window. A dark shadow moved near the fence between his house and Karen's. Amir grabbed his phone and started recording again. The figure bent down near the fence and seemed to be digging or pulling something from the ground. Then the person stood up and moved quickly toward Karen's garage. The motion light came on, revealing a short glimpse of his face. It was the same man, Richard. Amir immediately called the sheriff. He's here again, he whispered. He's in her garage. Stay inside, Amir. We're coming right now, said Daniel. Amir waited anxiously. 10 minutes felt like an hour. He could still hear faint noises from the garage. Then suddenly he saw a flash of light inside like a small spark. He thought something might have short-circuited. A few seconds later, Richard came out quickly holding something in his hand and a small black box. He ran toward his car, started it, and sped away. By the time the police arrived, he was gone. The sheriff checked the garage and found some open boxes and wires scattered everywhere. The black receiver that had once been there was missing. Daniel looked angry. He took something important. Maybe the main storage device. Amir asked, Do you think it had all the recordings? Maybe, said the sheriff. If it did, he doesn't want anyone to see what's on it. The officers stayed for another hour, checking the area and collecting evidence. Karen, who had been asleep, came out in shock when she saw the police. She looked frightened when Daniel told her that Richard had broken in again. The sheriff told her to come to the station again in the morning for more questions. She nodded silently, tears in her eyes. After everyone left, Amir stood near his window once more. The street was calm again, but his mind was full of thoughts. Why had Richard risked coming back to take that one device? What was inside it that he didn't want the police to see? As the night grew quiet, Amir realized that what had started as a small blinking light in his driveway had turned into something much bigger. Someone had been watching, recording, and hiding secrets that involved more than just one curious neighbor. He knew that the truth was still out there, somewhere inside that black box now. The next morning, Amir felt tired from staying up all night. He had barely slept after seeing Richard break into Karen's garage and escape with the black box. His mind kept replaying the moment again and again. Why would that man risk so much just to take that one device? Whatever was on it must have been important, maybe even dangerous. At sunrise, Amir made tea and sat near the window. The neighborhood looked normal again, quiet and calm, as if nothing strange had happened. But Amir knew the peace was false. Something dark was moving beneath the surface. Soon a police car stopped in front of Karen's house. Sheriff Daniel stepped out and walked straight to her door. She opened it quickly, looking worried and sleepless. Amir could see her from his gate, her hands trembling slightly. After a few minutes, Daniel came over to Amir. "Morning," he said, his tone serious. "We searched the garage again, but Richard cleaned his tracks well. He took the main receiver, but we still found some backup files on her computer. Our tech team is checking them now." Amir nodded. "Do they show anything important?" "Not yet," said the sheriff. "But some of the recordings are strange. They show your driveway at night like before, but sometimes there are shadows, figures moving near your fence. We're not sure if it's him or someone else." Amir frowned. "Figures? More than one?" "Yes," said Daniel. "At least two. They appear on different nights. One looks like a man with a cap, maybe Richard, but the other one is taller and keeps to the darker side of the camera." "It's not clear." That made Amir's heart beat faster. He had thought Richard was working alone, but now it sounded like he had someone helping him. After the sheriff left, Amir walked along the fence between his property and Karen's. The morning sun showed small footprints on the soil. They looked recent, maybe from last night. He followed them to the back corner where the fence met the alley. There he found a small metallic object half buried in dirt. He picked it up and brushed the soil away. It was a flash drive. Amir turned it in his hand. There was no label on it, just a small scratch mark that looked like a letter R. His instincts told him it belonged to Richard. He hesitated for a moment, then decided to show it to the sheriff before plugging it into anything. He called Daniel again. Within half an hour, the sheriff arrived with a small tech device to check the flash drive safely. He connected it to his laptop inside his car. For a few seconds, the screen showed only files named by date. Then a video opened. It showed the same view of Amir's driveway at night. The timestamp was from 2 weeks earlier. At first, everything was normal, but after a few seconds, a dark figure appeared near the gate. The figure bent down as if placing something on the ground. Then the red light of the hidden camera came on. The person stood up and looked straight into the lens. It was Karen. Amir felt his throat tighten. "She put it there herself," he said quietly. The sheriff nodded. "Yes, but look closely." He paused the video. In the corner of the screen, another figure was standing near the fence watching Karen. "That's him," Daniel said. "That's Richard. He was there the whole time." They watched the rest of the video. After installing the camera, Karen walked back toward her garage while Richard stayed for a few more seconds looking around. He then adjusted the angle of the camera before walking away. Amir spoke softly. "So she wasn't alone that night. He told her to do it." "Yes," said Daniel. "He was guiding her. Maybe she thought he was helping, but it looks like he was controlling her." The sheriff saved the video as evidence. This flash drive might be the key. Richard probably dropped it by mistake when he came last night. As Daniel left, Amir felt slightly relieved, but the feeling didn't last long. Later that afternoon, Karen came to his gate. She looked tired and her eyes were red. "Amir, can we talk?" she asked softly. Amir hesitated. "About what?" "About what's happening," she said. "You don't understand. I didn't mean to spy on you. I was scared. Richard told me things, terrible things. He said someone was watching both of us." Amir frowned. "Watching both of us? Who?" "I don't know," she whispered.
"He said there was another person, someone who wanted something from him."
"He said the cameras were to protect me, and maybe you too. But then he started acting strange. He said if I told anyone, he would disappear and take proof with him." Amir could tell she was shaking. Her voice cracked as she spoke. He believed she might have been manipulated. "Then why didn't you tell the sheriff before?" he asked. "Because I thought he was right," she said. "I thought someone really was after us. He showed me strange photos, said they were taken near your house. He said people came at night. I didn't know what to believe anymore." Before Amir could say anything, they both heard a distant sound of a car. It was the same black car. It stopped near the corner of the street. The engine stayed on and the windows were dark. Karen stepped back, fear in her eyes. "It's him," she whispered. "He's watching." Amir quickly called the sheriff. "He's back," he said. "The black car is here again." "Stay inside, both of you," Daniel replied. "We're on the way." The car stayed for a few minutes, then drove off slowly. Karen stood frozen, her hands clenched together. Amir guided her inside his house for safety until the sheriff arrived. When Daniel came, he checked the street, but the car was gone again. "He's playing with us," the sheriff said. "He wants to make you both nervous, but he's getting desperate now." That evening, the police placed a small surveillance camera near Amir's house for protection, this time official and visible. They told Amir and Karen to stay alert but not go outside at night. As darkness fell, Amir sat near the window again. Karen stayed at her house but kept her lights on. Around midnight, Amir noticed something glowing faintly near Karen's garage window. It wasn't a reflection this time. It looked like a small light moving slowly inside, like someone was there. He called her phone, but she didn't answer. The glow disappeared. Amir hesitated for a moment, then decided to check. He took a flashlight and walked toward the fence. The night was quiet except for the wind moving the leaves. When he reached her gate, he noticed the garage door was slightly open. "Karen?" he called softly. There was no reply. He pushed the door open a little. Inside, the room smelled of dust and wires. The shelves were full of old boxes and tools. At the back, a small screen was still on, showing camera feeds. One of them showed Amir's own backyard live. Before he could move closer, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned quickly, but no one was there. The sound came again, this time from outside near the fence. He stepped out and looked around. The streetlight flickered once, then went out, leaving everything in dim moonlight. A shadow moved near the bushes. Amir froze. The shape looked like Richard. The man's dark jacket blended with the night, but his eyes caught the light for a brief second. "Richard," Amir said firmly. "Stop right there. The police are coming." The man didn't answer. Instead, he backed away slowly, then turned and ran toward the alley. Amir tried to follow but stopped when he saw something fall from the man's hand. It was another small black box. He picked it up carefully. It was the same type of device as before, with a tiny red light blinking weakly. He knew this could be another receiver or something connected to the recordings. He held it tightly and ran back home, locking the door behind him. The sheriff arrived minutes later. Amir gave him the box. Daniel examined it and smiled slightly. "Good job, Amir. This might be what he stole earlier. Maybe he dropped it while running." They decided to check it the next morning at the station. Daniel promised to call with results. When Amir finally sat down, the night felt heavy again. The shadows outside seemed longer than usual. Somewhere out there, Richard was still watching, hiding, waiting. And Amir knew that the final truth was still waiting to be found inside that small black box now lying safely in police hands. The next morning, Amir woke up early, his mind restless with thoughts about the black box he had handed over to the sheriff the night before. He sat at the kitchen table drinking tea, staring out at his quiet driveway. The neighborhood looked calm, the birds chirped softly, and the morning sun reflected off the rooftops. But Amir knew that beneath this peaceful scene, secrets were waiting to be uncovered. A few hours later, Sheriff Daniel called Amir. "Good morning, Amir. We've analyzed the box you found. It contained the main recordings Richard had been controlling. Most of the files were from your driveway and other nearby houses. But there is something important. Some of the recordings show events that are not ordinary." Amir frowned. "What do you mean?" Daniel continued. "There are videos showing Richard entering yards at night and placing small devices like sensors. He wasn't just controlling cameras. He was tracking movements, cars, and even deliveries. He planned everything carefully. He wanted full control of what people were doing in this street." Amir felt a chill. "So Karen was manipulated?" "Yes," Daniel said. Richard instructed her, showed her evidence that he claimed was dangerous, and convinced her to help. But it was all part of his plan. He wanted access to information, not to protect anyone. Amir looked toward Karen's house. He could see her through the window, sitting silently, her hands folded on her lap. She looked tired and anxious, but also relieved. It seemed she had been carrying a heavy burden for weeks. The sheriff explained the next steps. "We will secure the recordings and identify everything Richard has done. Then we will try to track him. If he returns, he will face charges for trespassing, illegal surveillance, and manipulation. You did the right thing by reporting it immediately." Amir nodded. "Thank you, officer. I was afraid he might come back. I still don't understand why he focused on my house so much." Daniel smiled faintly. "You live at the corner. Your driveway and property are visible from several angles. For someone like Richard, it was easy to monitor. But he underestimated you. You stayed calm and collected, and you documented everything. That helped us a lot." Later that afternoon, Amir decided to talk to Karen. He walked over to her gate. She opened it slowly, looking nervous. "Amir," she said softly, "I want to apologize for everything. I didn't mean to scare you. I thought I was protecting both of us, but I realize now I was wrong. I should have told you from the start." Amir nodded. "I understand. You were scared. Richard convinced you. But you need to stay honest now. We need to make sure nothing like this happens again." Karen agreed. "I want to help the sheriff if he needs more information. I want to make this right." As they spoke, Amir noticed a small envelope on the ground near her gate. Karen picked it up and opened it. Inside were some photos and notes she had kept about Richard's instructions. The handwriting matched the previous notebook found by the sheriff. "These are things I saved," Karen said. "I didn't want to lose them in case something happened. They show how he guided me step by step. I want the police to see everything." Amir nodded. "We will give it all to Sheriff Daniel. It might help catch him faster." That evening, Amir returned home and checked the street. It was quiet again, but he felt a sense of vigilance. He knew Richard might try to return, but with the evidence now in the sheriff's hands, he had less power. Later that night, Amir and Karen received a call from the sheriff. "Good news," Daniel said. "We tracked Richard's black car through a traffic camera. It's heading toward another town, far from here. It seems he left the neighborhood. For now, you are safe. But we will continue monitoring." Amir and Karen exchanged relieved glances. Karen's hands, which had been shaking for weeks, now rested calmly on her lap. The next few days passed quietly. Amir installed a visible security camera in his driveway just to be safe. He also talked to other neighbors, informing them about what had happened, making sure everyone understood the risks. Karen apologized personally to each neighbor, explaining her part in the events and why she had been acting strangely. Most people accepted her apology, understanding that she had been manipulated. One afternoon, Sheriff Daniel visited Amir to return the black box and the flash drive for documentation. "We've kept copies of everything for the case," he said. "Richard is being investigated in the next town for similar activity. Your cooperation helped us prevent more issues here." Amir felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Thank you, Sheriff. I thought this would never end." Daniel smiled. "It's always important to stay aware, Amir. You did everything right. Keeping calm, documenting evidence, and calling us made a big difference." Over the next few weeks, Amir and Karen rebuilt a sense of trust. Karen stopped being secretive and started spending more time in her garden, smiling at neighbors she had avoided. Amir noticed that she no longer seemed nervous and her interactions were honest and open. Amir also took precautions. He made sure all windows had locks and installed stronger outdoor lights. He checked the small corners of his driveway and yard for anything unusual. It gave him peace to know he was prepared. One afternoon, Karen approached him with a small gift. It was a potted plant with colorful flowers. "For your garden," she said. "I want to start fresh, Amir. No more secrets, no more spying." Amir smiled and accepted it. "Thank you, Karen. Let's hope the neighborhood can go back to normal now." Months passed and life slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The street was quiet during the day. Children played in their yards and neighbors talked freely without fear. Amir could finally enjoy the simple peace of his home again. He still kept an eye on the driveway, but the fear that had weighed on him was gone. One evening, while Amir was reading by his window, Karen walked past with a basket of flowers for the neighbors. She waved at Amir and he waved back. It was a simple gesture, but it meant a lot. It showed that honesty and cooperation could restore trust, even after fear and manipulation. Sheriff Daniel called Amir once more to update him. "Richard has been located and is facing multiple charges in the next town. The investigation is ongoing, but it seems he has been involved in similar cases before. Thanks to you and Karen, we stopped him from continuing here." Amir felt a deep sense of relief. "I'm glad it's over. I never want to see anything like this again." Daniel chuckled lightly. "That's why we always advise residents to stay alert. But you handled it well. You remained calm, collected, and careful. That's what matters." As the sun set, casting a golden glow across the street, Amir sat on his porch looking at the houses around him. Everything seemed peaceful. The trees swayed gently and the sky turned orange and pink. He felt grateful for safety, for the truth, and for the lesson he had learned. Vigilance, patience, and honesty could protect anyone from hidden threats. Karen's house was calm too. From his porch, Amir could see her watering the plants she had brought for neighbors. She smiled when she saw him and he smiled back. They had both learned the consequences of fear and manipulation, and the neighborhood was stronger for it. At that moment, Amir realized something important. Life would always have unexpected challenges, but facing them with courage, documenting the truth, and trusting the right people made the difference. The hidden camera, the secret recordings, and the mysterious man named Richard were now behind him. The street was quiet, neighbors were safe, and Amir could finally enjoy the peace he had always valued. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the evening breeze on his face, and smiled. The neighborhood was safe again, and he was ready to enjoy life without fear. The truth had been found. Justice was moving forward, and the sense of normalcy had returned. For Amir, the blinking red light in the driveway was no longer a threat. It had been a warning, a test, and now a lesson in vigilance, trust, and courage.